What's going on, Patriot fans? Welcome back to the PrimeTime Patriots podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jake Mott. Excited to be with you guys here on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to break down tomorrow's night primetime matchup with the Patriots and the Vikings. So, one of three games happening on Thanksgiving. The first one is the Bills against the Lions, and the second one is the Cowboys and the Giants. Then we got the Patriots and the Vikings. That's the game we're breaking down today. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump into it. So, the Vikings, atop the NFL until last week, right? They got blown out in embarrassing fashion, 40-3 to the Dallas Cowboys. That was a game I talked about, right? I was watching that game last Sunday as it was happening. They had to change broadcast, right? They had to switch and go cover the Bengals game. They said, we're going to bring you a more competitive matchup. So, the Vikings got their doors blown off last week. The most hyped game of the week, by far, was them and the Cowboys. And it turned out to be a shit show for the Minnesota Vikings. So they're going to be looking to right their ship. They're at home. This game is in Minnesota. Patriots definitely going to have to up their play. Very, very shaky game for them, especially offensively. Zach Wilson also gave them a lot of handouts in terms of helping out their defense in that game as well. So Patriots going to have to step up because the Vikings are going to be bringing that fire, trying to regain that respect that they earned through the first 9 weeks of the season. So let's look at their offense and our defense. So the Vikings offense. Up until last week, again, this offense was the star of the show. In 8 of their 9 games, and the 8 of the 9 games they won, they scored at least 20 points. In 5 of those games, they scored at least 28. So they are dropping huge amounts of points, and they're just making it really easy for this defense. There was 2 games last week, obviously, against the Cowboys. They scored 3, and there was another game. I'm blanking on the exact team, but they only scored 7 points. That was their one other loss. So when they're not able to produce a lot of points, what is over 20 is the number, they're not getting these wins. So that is the magic number. I don't know if your defense, while I think it's very good, I don't think it's good enough to deal with these guys, right? So obviously, let's look at the weapons here. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson from the Lions this year in a trade, and Dalvin Cook. That's a unit of an offense. And then you have a guy like Kirk Cousins who isn't a game breaker or anything, but he's a good game manager. He looked very shaky against the Cowboys, but that was a whole collection of things, right? Defense looked awful. A lot of situations looked bad for the Minnesota Vikings. So if Kirk Cousins can come out and just, beat Kirk Cousins, that middle of the road 16 out of 32 quarterback, I think he's just going to distribute and kind of pick you apart here. The keys, I think you got to try to get a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins and just hope he's having a somewhat off day. Again, if you expect our secondary, or any secondary really, to cover Jefferson, Thielen, and Hawkinson for more than 3 full seconds, you're asking for trouble. You really are. So I think the huge players in this game are going to be people like Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, these hybrids, right? These guys who are definitely secondary players, but can come up and make plays. Because you're going to have to put a lot of DBs on the field in order to cover these receivers and these athletes. But obviously, Minnesota in that case is just going to try to run the ball down your throat with Dalvin Cook. So you need people like Kyle Duggar, like Jabril Peppers, to be able to come up from that safety or corner position, make some plays, and help out when they try to pound Dalvin Cook down your throat. So that, I think, is the game plan for the Patriots defense here. You got to hold them somewhere to that 20-point number. I think it's too much to ask for the Patriots to hold them in single digits or anything like that. I think at least 2 touchdowns and a couple field goals here for the Vikings is likely. The Patriots offense is going to need to step up and make plays, right? So let's look at that side of the football a little more specifically. Their defense, our offense. So this is the side of the ball that you definitely have to win on. They're sub-average in basically every area, especially in the passing game, where they allow 267 yards a game. That is second worst in the NFL. Obviously, they're scoring a bunch of points like we just talked about, so those pass numbers are going to be high, right? Other teams are going to be trying desperately to pass back into the game, so the defense naturally going to let up a lot of pass yards. Still, that's a weakness to attack, right? It is not the Patriots' strength. Mac Jones is going to have to step up. At some point here, he has to have the best game he's had of the season. if he can look like he did against maybe Baltimore, right? I know that was a tough game in terms of producing points, but in terms of moving the ball down the field, producing yardage, giving your offense opportunities, that was his best game this year. If he can have a game that looks like that and take advantage of this secondary, I think the Patriots got a shot. They are ranked near the bottom in yards allowed, but more towards the 20-ish range ranking for points allowed, which means they're allowing a lot, but they're holding a lot of teams to field goals and just relying on that high-powered offense to put up as much points as possible. So, to counter that, you just can't play soft in this game and you can't play conservative. I think if you're the Patriots, you got to go for as many touchdowns as you can. Obviously, that's the goal every week, but I think you go hyper-aggressive here. Field goals are not going to beat the Vikings. And again, just because they've only scored above 20 or under 7 doesn't mean they're not going to score somewhere in that area. If you expect to just spray field goals all game and win some games scoring 16 points, 19 points, I don't think this Vikings team is the team you can do it against. I think they're too powerful on offense. Something's going to break on the defense. They're going to find holes, right? And they're going to move the ball. And they're going to put up points. The last thing really on the offensive side for the Patriots, you got to limit the sacks. And it's definitely going to be the hardest thing. Just lost Andrews and Wynn last week, so you're going to have new bodies in there. It's going to be tough. I really, really hope they can protect Mac. I think they're going to have to pass the ball quite a bit in this game because I don't see the Vikings not coming out of the gates firing, right? They had a horrendous week last week. I think they're going to be juiced up. They're going to be ready to go. They're at home. I think they're going to come out with their foot on the pedal. You got to be able to answer it, right? You can't let Mac get sacked a million times. You can't let all this pressure happen, right? You got to go with quick throws, quick routes. Save those deep shot plays and things. Save that for play action. Save that for when you know they're dropping people in coverage, right? Save that for money situations because you're playing a risky game with this line, right? It's kind of Swiss cheesy at times. There's a lot of holes, and we just don't want to get our quarterback killed in what is going to be the most important stretch of the season, these next few games, right? So, on to predictions. We won't waste any time. I got the Vikings winning this one 27-16. I'm not sure the exact score prediction or if I even did score predictions. I had the Vikings winning this game at the beginning of the year. That hasn't changed. The Vikings have looked better than most people would have thought. I've always been, I would say, a little higher than most on the Vikings. Never thought they'd be as good as they are right now. They are cream of the crop of the league. One game is one game. The Cowboys are also a great football team. So the Vikings are the real deal. I think they're going to come out and really give it to the Patriots here. Wouldn't be surprised to see them go up maybe 2 or 3 scores and then kind of just coast. Things get a little closer towards the end, but I think this is a game that the Vikings are supposed to win. They had a tough loss, and, the Patriots snuck out of one in all reality in Gillette against the New York Jets with that punt return, right? That wasn't a great game by any means. I think those two roads meet here, and the Vikings are just going to have the Patriots number. So, again, got the Vikings winning this one 27-16. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be fun. Enjoy you guys' Thanksgiving Day football. Enjoy you guys' Thanksgiving in general. Just have a great holiday. Thanks so much for tuning in and taking the time. Leave a like if you can. Go Pats.